Okay, this is a video on how to tell time on an old-fashioned clock. Alright, an old school clock, whatever you like to call it. I give you a little history here. When I was a senior in high school, I had freshmen come up to me and, they couldn't tell what time it is. And I say, oh, the clock's right there on the wall. And they go, oh yeah, I know, but I can't read those type of clocks. I need it to be digital. So if you're young, you're out there, and you have a problem telling time on an old-fashioned clock, I'm here to help you. Don't worry. It's better off you know than not learn something. So anyway, this is just a little bit of sketching, all right, of what an old school clock looks like. Essentially what we have here, all right, are these 12 numbers, 12 big numbers, and each one of these numbers is going to represent an hour, all right, and as you know, there's 24 hours in a day. Thus, all right, the clock has to go through twice its cycle. All right, you have the morning, all right, and then when you get to 12, again, that becomes the noon, and hence you have afternoon, right? Well, the way a clock is constructed is that you have two primary arms. You have the shorter arm, known as the hour hand, and then you have the longer arm, known as the minute hand. And the reason why the minute hand's longer is due to the fact that there's these little notches usually built around the outside of a clock. Those little notches represent 1 minute. Okay, so if you were to actually count up all these little notches, all right, you would count up to 60. And why? Well, there's 60, all right, minutes in an hour. And also, it's pretty convenient that there's also 60 seconds in a minute. Thus, all right, many of these clocks incorporate another little hand, or actually it's a rather longer hand, but it's known, all right, as your second hand. Now, 1 second here while I try to illustrate that for you. Basically what we have here, all right, is that second hand. And that second hand can be used for various tasks, but it sits up like this, and every click it makes is 1 second. And you can use this as a stopwatch. So if it starts at 12, the next time it gets to 12, that's going to be 1 minute done. All right, you can start it at any section on the clock, as long as you end it at the same section. So if you start at 3, you can wait for the second hand to get to 3 again, and 1 minute has passed. Every time 1 minute has passed, this longer arm just so slightly clicks over, and thus the cycle goes through, all right, its whole completion. Basically, to tell time, what you got to know is that the shorter hand, rather, is the one that's going to dictate the hour. If it's on the number or it's a little bit after the number, that's going to mean that the time is related to that number. So right now, this is showing about 4 o'clock. See, the smaller hand is pointing to 4, and that longer hand, anytime it's on a 12, that means that it's a whole hour. Now, in this example, all right, time has changed slightly. You still have it pretty much close to the 4. It's moved a little bit forward, all right, but that's because now the longer hand is on a 3. Now, what does that mean? Well, that doesn't mean it's 3-4 or something like that. That means that you have to now work with minutes, all right. And one of the easiest way to tell what time it is, besides cutting up the circle into quarters or something like that, is to count by 5s. But let me just illustrate the whole quarter splicing as well. There's 60 minutes in here if it was one giant pie, right? A whole 60-minute pie. And you cut 4 slices. Therefore, each slice is going to be a division problem. So basically, 60 divided by 4, all right, ta-da, you're going to get, all right, 15. All right, so you have each section is going to be 15 minutes. So if you know that, you can easily, 1, 2, 3, know if it's going to be on the 3, it's going to be 15 minutes after the hour. All right. Now, this is what I was trying to explain earlier about the whole thing about 5 minutes. All right, if you can multiply by 5 in your head, you got it down pat. All right, 1 times 5 is 5, and 2 times 5 is 10. And now right here, as you see, the 6 represents 30 minutes. All right, so 5 times 6 equals 30. That's all this means. That's all it is. All right, and now let's say if it was a number that was a little bit off, like this example right here, now this hand is exactly, all right, in between the 4 and the 5. Essentially, the term used is bisecting, like with an angle. Okay, if that happens, well, you know that there's 5 between the 4 and the 5. So 5 cut into half is, well, 2.5 minutes, so I'm trying to illustrate it with the pen, 2.5 minutes. All right, thus, all right, since the 4 represents 20 minutes, all you have to do is add the difference, all right, the little more it's forward to the 20 here, and you get 22.5 minutes past the hour. All right, and that's never really going to happen. No one wants to know that it's, like something like 3:22.5 minutes. So normally what will happen is that you have a whole bunch of these little slits, and the first one's going to represent 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and 5 minutes. All right, so if it's exactly right next to the 4, you can say something like 21. If it's right next to the 5, you can say, okay, maybe it's something like, in this scenario, 24 minutes past the hour. And if it's in the middle, just guess whichever it's closest to. Okay. So you can tell time just as pretty much accurately as you can on a digital clock with a conventional analog style clock, as some people like to call them. All right, now there's different lingo associated to the whole thing about time, but the general basics are like this. All right, someone might say something like quarter past. Quarter past, you just imagine it like NASA or something like that. 15 minutes past the hour. That's basically what they're trying to say. A half past, all right, basically means that half the hour is already gone. Now you know that there's 60 minutes in an hour, so therefore you know that at half an hour would be 30 minutes. The easiest way to illustrate that is, once again, let me just draw a little clock here. We have a circle, all right, we have the 12. Let's say, you have the 3 and the 4. All right, you have the center point. So half past, all right, is actually where the hour hand now splits the 4 and the 5 in this example. All right, so what you would have is the minute hand over here. Okay, because you see the 6 represents 30, and 30 minutes is half past an hour. All right, half an hour. All right, so therefore, when the hour hand is exactly in the middle, the shorter hand that is, between the 2 digits, that means that it's going to be roughly half past the hour. All right, that's all that is. All right, now some people might say other things like, like 10 to 7 or something like that. That just means that there's 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. All right, so that would really be, 6:50, because the longer hand would be right here on the 10, and, the hour hand would be just before the 7. All right, and that's basically how to tell time on an old school clock. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions or need any more help, just send me a message. Okay.